Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you're listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. Happy New Year, everyone. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? We are so happy that you can join us. We welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. Now, if you would like a reading tonight, call into the show at 661-244-9831. The phone lines will be filling fast, so call in now. Don't forget, you can always send us an email with future topics that you'd like to see on the show, or if you just want to say hi. Our email address is paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And last but not least, check us out on our Facebook show page and our YouTube channel for more info on the paranormal and upcoming shows.
Well, we're now into our second show out of 5 in the January Psychic Advisors special series that Lucy and I are putting together for January 2014, and it's only just begun to get exciting and hopefully life-changing. Lucy and I are truly excited to introduce our guest tonight. Belle Salisbury is joining Paranormal Review Radio tonight to talk about her gifts, her life's mission, her magazine, and has graciously agreed to give our listeners some past life readings during the show. Let me start off by introducing Miss Belle Salisbury. Belle is a gifted internationally recognized psychic medium and spiritual counselor. She chooses to honor God with her abilities in all that she does within her psychic work, often donating her services for charities and fundraisers within her local community. She chooses to use her vast knowledge of the spirit realm and the paranormal by teaching others how to develop their own abilities. Belle is a highly respected instructor, bringing her knowledge to you in a method which is easy to understand. Belle has appeared on TV, radio, in newspaper publications, and has taught in Lilydale, New York. Several of Belle's home investigations have been included in the books Still More Haunted Northern New York and Weird Northern New York by Sherry Reve Farnsworth. Belle is often called upon to offer assistance in locating missing persons and murder investigations, a service she does not charge for. She is able to see through the eyes of the victim, often giving details of the event, description of the perpetrator's vehicles, and the location of the crime. Belle radiates truth and integrity in all her work as a psychic medium, counselor, and spiritual teacher, and is sincerely devoted to her work with spirit. Belle's intention is to help others on their journey through spiritual education and enlightenment. Please help me in welcoming to the show the wonderful Miss Belle Salisbury. Hello, Belle, are you there?
I'm here, yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Belle. Welcome. What an honor it is to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, as so many of us are discovering our own abilities, it's always interesting and inspiring to learn how others make that discovery. So can I ask you, how and when did you first discover your gift?
I was a very young girl, very young. I was probably about maybe 5 years old when I would start to describe people that were around me that my family couldn't see. They couldn't quite understand who I was, talking to all the time. And I began describing this woman who kept coming to me. She never spoke, but she always kept coming to me. And when I was about, 12 years old, my mother was showing pictures from the family album, and I pointed to this woman and I said, "That's her. That's the lady who sees me every night." And my mother just looked at me and she went white in the face. She goes, "That's my mother." Her mother had passed away when her mother was 34 when she passed away, so she never saw my mother get married. She never, saw us children. And for me to describe her and to point to her without even knowing who she was, and said, "That's the woman that comes to visit me." And so they kind of, were a little nervous about what I did or what I would say, but, they knew I was different, or maybe I knew I was different. And it just sort of started from there where, spirits would come to me, they would communicate with me, and there were things that I would just know, that I didn't know how to explain how I knew them. I just did.
Okay. Well, you know what? I just want to take this quick moment to remind our listeners that Belle will be giving some past life reading to our listeners tonight. So give us a call, 661-244-9831. We're going to be doing the readings in a few minutes, so make sure you call in now. Belle, you know what? One of the most fascinating things that I did discover in my research was what you just mentioned, called the knowing. Now, as we learn about what abilities we have, when you hear that someone has a similar experience, it kind of helps you to identify what's happening to yourself. So what you described really, really interested me because my own experience was very similar. Can you share with us what the knowing is and what it was like?
Well, Lucy, both of us being Cherokee, and my grandmother was full Cherokee, and that was her term. She always would tell me, "Don't worry, sweetheart, you have the knowing." And so it's kind of interesting that it came through, our Cherokee lineage. But the knowing is, in essence, it's called claircognizance, if you want to look at it, the technical word. Claircognizance is the feeling of clear knowing. I know, I don't know how I know, I just do. And I would have experiences as a young girl. I would go to church every Sunday with my family, and I would sit in the church, and I would listen to the sermon, and I would go, that's not true. And my mother would pop me on my leg to get me to shut up, and I would come out of church with this pink leg, and so I quickly learned not to sit next to Mama in the church, Excuse me. But yeah, it was just that you just know things. They just come in. They, does it come into your mind or does it just come into your being? You just know. And you don't know how you do. It's just, things that you just know. I mean, how else can you explain it? You just know it.
Well, I found it really interesting because I never heard it called the knowing, but growing up, it is exactly what you say. I mean, you know things. And so I always accepted the fact that I knew things. I mean, there's some experiences with my own grandmother on the Mexican side that it was almost like I had full conversations, but yet neither one of us spoke each other's language. She spoke Spanish, I spoke English, but yet I knew. It was like she told me things. I knew family history. So in my own way, I did call, it's like I know things. But when you said the knowing, it was almost like, wow, that just clicked. Absolutely clicked.
Yeah, it does. And it's the same thing when you're communicating with, excuse me, I've been getting over bronchitis. It's the same thing when you're communicating with spirit on the other side. Whether they speak in their physical life, whether they spoke English or whether they spoke another language, the mode of conversation that spirit uses on the other side is not the human language. The way they communicate is through feeling. And so that is clairsentience, where it's clear feeling. We feel things. And that's how they communicate on the other side, not with words like we do here, but with feeling. And so we can communicate with anyone of any language, but through the energy of feeling, we get their message. We know exactly what they're saying.
Well, Belle, tonight's topic that we've titled the show is past life and past life readings. And, from what I've learned, past life readings can be very healing to be able to understand, who you were and what you did may have some sort of explanation as to what we fear and what we may be holding back in this life. But, skeptics have told me, though, and they've said to me that the reason why we don't consciously know our past lives is because we have to learn these faults on our own. We have to come to grips with it pretty much as a self journey and not have something or our past being brought up to us, sort of like a book being opened and shown to us. What are your thoughts on past lives and the benefits to knowing them and growing from them?
Well, here's the thing. I love talking about past lives, and they can get, if we really get into the quantum physics of it, it can get really deep. And it can leave you going, huh, what?
Right.
But if we can believe that we are experiencing our existence simultaneously in the past, the present, and the future, we are a part of all that is. And so and that's why I don't really like calling them past life regressions. I consider them other life regressions.
Right.
Because these could be lifetimes that we're living simultaneously depending on where our consciousness lies. Okay, so is this really our reality or is it yet someplace else? So when we work with past life regressions or talk about other life experiences, these are, if we can understand that we're all a collective and that when we come into this life experience, we don't come in with 100% of our soul quality. It couldn't fit in this body that we call the spacesuit that we call the body. It comes in just a small portion of our soul quality. So where's the rest of our soul hanging out at? Other realms, other dimensions, having other experiences. But because we're a collective of that soul, and of course of the collective consciousness, we're all having that same experience. And so it explains a lot of times why many of us are having the same experiences, or maybe the same hang-ups, or it explains why I'm having a phobia. Maybe I went down with the Titanic, and so I have this extreme fear of water, or a fear of being on a boat, so to speak. Excuse me. So past life experiences can be very valuable in helping us to understand another part of ourselves that we can't relate to in this current lifetime.
So is it sort of like, because I hear the terminology Akashic records. Is that similar to what you were just talking about?
Exactly, it is. The Akashic records are simply a record of life experiences or experiences that we've chosen. But here's an interesting thought. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Here's an interesting thought, though. How many times have you heard someone say, well, I had a past life regression and it came through that I was, Moses on the Mount. And then you meet another person who says the exact same thing.
Right.
They were Moses on the Mount. Or somebody might believe that they were John the Baptist or that they were, Alexander the Great. How can several people have been told that they had the same life experience? Excuse me. But it doesn't mean that somebody told them erroneously. It means that they opted in to have that life experience, even though many people could possibly have had it. Because remember, we're a soul collective. We're not separate. We're a collective. Mm-hmm. Did that go over your head?
No. I think I got it towards the end. So we're basically, I truly believe that we are all connected. That our soul and all the spirits and everything and everyone around us, we're all connected in some way. There's this, sort of invisible thread that I call, or this web that's in between everything and everyone. And so what I think I'm getting from what you're saying is that we're pretty much, yes, we're living our lives, but we're living all of lives. We're living all of the spirits and all of the souls, past, present, and even future, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that a past, sometimes we want to put this with the Gregorian calendar and say that each life experience I have moves forward. There may be a lifetime that you're going to choose that comes up in 2137, and then the next life you choose is going to be held in 1500s. There's no chronological rhyme or reason to our life experiences, but also consider what happens to one of you happens to all of you. And because of being a collective consciousness, we are all apt to have same or similar experiences. So
Go ahead, Belle, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, so when we have a regression, we're being brought to an experience that has purpose for you in this lifetime in order to help you with, as you said, with healing, Rob, or with being stuck. Maybe you're in a stagnant situation. Maybe you're dealing with fear. There's many things that we're experiencing that thwart our ability to be able to move forward and progress. And that's why we want to focus on a past life experience to kind of help us release and heal and then progress.
I was just going to correlate to this, and I can, I don't want to really get deep into, quantum physics or quantum mechanics, but, they said that electrons in, one specific location can directly affect another electron light years away. Just by a sudden movement, it will actually change that other electron. So I take that into that aspiration of what you just talked about, of how we're affecting all of us, all around us.
And that's why a lot of people talk about, healing the world and be the change that you want to see in the world, because what one does, it's like that ripple in the ocean. You know what I mean? What one does, it affects another, and then it affects another, and then it affects double that, and then triple that. So we can, every change, every choice, and every decision that we make affects not just us, but all of us.
Are we able to tap into these Akashic records ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing with me. This is the reason why I enjoy so much teaching people how to do what I do, because what I do is nothing special. It's about teaching people not to be reliant on me, but to be reliant upon yourself. And so I enjoy teaching people how to make that connection, how to build their psychic ability, how to connect with mediumship, or how to work within their own Akashic records to gain their own inner knowledge and their own lessons.
Wonderful.
Well, you know what, Belle, not to get off the subject, but I do want to ask you, you're described as a psychic medium and a spiritual counselor. So can you tell us, what is a spiritual counselor?
Well, the majority of the focus that I come on with doing my readings, yes, I can see things that are going on around you, whether it's past, present, or what's to come or probable to come. We all are about free will and choices. And I can also communicate with loved ones on the other side, with your spirit guides, and bring forth messages for you. But as a spiritual counselor, I might take those two things into account and look at your life and see where you're stagnating yourself, or where you might be stuck, or where you need some healing to take place. And so as a spiritual counselor, I'm going to take those things into account, and I'm going to help you to grow. I'm going to help you to be able to release and heal and move forward.
Excellent. Okay, well, you know what, and another thing that I want to ask you about, I have to ask you about Bellesprit Magazine. It is such a wonderful collection of shared knowledge. Now, I did read that you were guided by Spirit in its creation. So can you tell us how this magazine came to be?
Yes, I was actually working, helping a friend with another magazine that was a paranormal magazine, and I was helping him with that. And it got to where, I was doing all the work, and he was getting all the, pats on the back. And I thought, I could do this for myself. And so I began thinking about, what type of magazine would I create. And Spirit spoke to me and said, knowledge is to be shared. And I'm like, that's why I teach. And he says, but knowledge is to be freely shared. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. But he continued to prompt me, and for about 3 months, I kept getting this message that I needed to create an avenue for knowledge to be shared. so then I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll just start a little, publication with my teachings. And so I created a Facebook fan page, and then it asked for the mission statement. So I said, well, let me sit on it tonight, and I'll come back in the morning and I'll fill it out, finish filling out my fan page. And I had named it Bellesprit Magazine. And so lo and behold, I came back the next morning, and there were 75 likes on the fan page, and I hadn't even announced it. I mean, I just put the darn thing together. And then before long, people began messaging me and saying, hey, can I write for this magazine? And I'm like, are you kidding? And I told people, hey, I'm not paying. If you do this, you're going to do it for free because I'm not paying. I can't afford it. But all these people began coming forward and wanting to contribute to this magazine. And so here we are going on our third year, and we have 56 columnists that write for Bellesprit Magazine. And Bellesprit is a free online magazine. It will always be a free online magazine.
Well, I am very proud to be a part of it. Very proud.
I'm honored to have you as a part of it.
Well, you know what?
And
okay, to get back to...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting how we came across the name Bellesprit, because, I originally was going to make it, my publication, my teachings and stuff, but I didn't want it to be about ego. And so when I was asking Spirit, okay, what should we call this magazine? And I kept hearing Belle, and I immediately shut them down. And I was like, no, I don't want my name in this. This has to be about the collective. It has to be about everyone. I don't want Belle in it. And so I would go back to the drawing board, and once again I kept getting Belle, and immediately I would shut them off. And finally Spirit decided, okay, she's being a little, in French they call it têteux, which means, hard-headed. And so Spirit finally said, beautiful spirit. And I go, oh, I'm liking that. So I did my research under Beautiful Spirit, and there was already a newsletter that was called Beautiful Spirit. And I didn't want to be confusing or conflicting with them. So I said, well, I like Beautiful Spirit, but that's already kind of taken. And then Spirit said, Bellesprit, Beautiful Spirit, French, Bellesprit. And so that is how Bellesprit came about. I just wasn't giving Spirit the chance to finish their sentence. I just kept cutting them off as soon as I heard Belle.
We do that so much.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
But you know what? Okay, so to get back to the subject at hand, the past life readings. Are there any negatives when you look into your past? I mean, should we have any fear when we address our past lives?
That's a good question. Excuse me. And every past life, whether, and I think we've experienced many aspects of lifetimes, whether we've had very privileged lifetimes or where we've had some very difficult lifetimes. Sometimes you're going to have a life experience to come through based on maybe some not so very happy experiences, okay? But what I try to do when I'm working with a client and doing a regression is if I feel that they're coming upon a time frame in that lifetime that perhaps might be too difficult and we don't want them to relive that, I will help move them forward. We're going to skip, a couple pages in the Akashic to get to the next phase of their life. Even though they'll have knowledge of what that was, we're not going to make them re-experience it. We definitely don't want you to negate what was important in that lifetime, whether it be good or bad, but we don't want you to have to relive it or re-experience that. But it may help you understand why I'm where I am right now in this lifetime.
Okay, good. Okay, well, you know what? It looks like the phone lines, they're filling up really fast. So we hope that we can get to those who really need the past life reading. So are you okay to start with some readings, Belle?
Absolutely, sweetie, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll continue with more questions in between the callers, and we'll learn more insight into your gifts. So is there anything that the callers need to provide to you when you connect with them, or is there something that they need to do during the reading?
Really, all that I need is just their first name, and hearing their voice helps me to be able to tap into their energy. So that's all I need.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's start with some callers, and let's go to area code 780. And hi, you're on the air with Lucy, Anthony, and Belle.
Hi, Belle.
Who is this?
Connie. It's Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Number one for a change. Yay.
All right, Connie. So let me kind of tap into your energy just a bit. Now, a lot of times what I'm going to do, Connie, when I'm connecting with a past life, I'm going to be able to see the life experience that is probably the most important to you at this time in your life. And we may also talk a lot about some symbolism that comes through during that particular lifetime to help you understand how that is working with you in this lifetime, okay? Now, I would venture to say, Connie, just right off the bat, I tend to want to put you as being a bit of a loner in this lifetime. That doesn't mean that you're a shy and demure individual, but it is that you indeed need or appreciate your quiet time. Does that make sense to you?
100%, yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Does that make sense, darling?
Yep, 100%.
Oh, okay, good. I just put you on my speakerphone because I have to have my hands free when I talk, so I put you on my speaker. The reason I'm saying that is that in this particular lifetime, I feel as though I want to put you in an Asian country, and not that I would make you a monk or a person of religious connection, but I did feel as though I wanted to make you an individual who you chose to live on your own, to live off the land. And I keep seeing this and I'm going to call you an elderly man because that's kind of how I feel, but he's kind of tracing up this path, going up this mountain. And that was where his home was located, was off to the side of this particular mountain. And I felt as though it was an important place for him to live because to me it felt like it kept him closer to God. And it afforded him the opportunity to be away from man's influence. You know, so here is a life experience that you led that I feel was a very spiritual life experience for you. And this is kind of what really, as Spirit's saying, catapulted your own soul's progression. Do you understand that?
Yep.
Okay, and if I look at the symbolism behind some of what they're showing me in this scenario is that the elderly man, you know, to me represents, of course, you, but it also represents the wiser part of self. If we connect with the higher self, this kind of resonates with connecting with your own higher self at this time in your life. The symbolism of him traipsing up this mountain, and it looks very rugged. Almost, you know, it sort of reminded me of the billy goat, you know, that climbs up the mountain. He seems very agile and very capable of maneuvering up over the rocks and up this path to where he called home or where he lived. And moving up this mountain, and because it was very rocky, kind of demonstrates to me that at this time in your life, you are indeed working on that spiritual path. And you have to kind of change direction. You have to kind of move to the left a little bit and maneuver to the right a little bit. And some of the path is very rocky and treacherous, and other parts of the path are very smooth. So to me, it sort of represents your own spiritual growth at this time in your life. But it is a time where you are choosing to more or less focus within. And to me, it's like I want to say you're more apt to want to be in the world but not of the world. And so at this time in your life, you really are putting a focus into wanting to develop and become a much more spiritual person. Do you understand that?
Yep, I do.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, it
Belle,
truly
was there anything
is.
else you want to add to?
Well, I feel like I have to say, you know, how very honored I am to be sharing a part of your spirit, because you are such an enlightened individual, and sometimes you tend to want to wait for somebody else to say something before you're going to speak out and say, oh, yeah, I agree. But what we're wanting you to focus on, what we want you to really look toward is finding your own voice and knowing your own truth and then sharing that with the world, because the world is waiting for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because a lot of people think I'm a mouthpiece as is.
And you are.
Wow, yeah, no, everything makes total sense.
Good. I'm
Total
so
sense.
glad. And you truly, and Spirit tells me you've actually used many, many lifetimes in which to always be focused about becoming better and becoming more in tune with your soul self. And in each lifetime, it seems like that's been a big focus for you. And so you may experience in this lifetime where there's a lot of folks, especially, close family members or close individuals who don't quite get you, who don't quite understand your thinking. And because there really isn't a harsh bone in your body. You find it very difficult to tell somebody off, unless, of course, you're cornered, and then you will come out fighting. But you always tend to want to see the good in people, and you always want to be forgiving, and you really emanate that Christ energy. And it's that causes a lot of people to not really get you, and that's okay because they're going to learn from you.
Well, thanks. There goes my whole rose persona here.
I'm only laughing because it's spot on, Belle.
It is. Well, I'm going to let you go here so that you can hit some others and hit them spot on, too. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, sweetheart.
And I'm
Thank
sure
you,
I
Connie.
will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Good night.
Bill, I have a question.
Sure, honey.
This may sound a little weird. I'm not sure, but have you ever come across or maybe heard within the field where an individual may not have lived a different past life, that they've sort of relived their existing life over and over again? Is that rare, or is that more common than I'm thinking of?
I think it happens a lot. It's just we always change the scenario. We might even change the individuals involved. But we oftentimes, based on our choices, repeat lifetime after lifetime after lifetime the same type lessons until we finally get it right.
Okay.
Don't you think? I mean that's, and again, folks, this is just the gospel according to Belle, but it just seems as though, if we don't gain a lesson, if we don't progress in the way in which we should, we get the opportunity to choose to come back with a same or similar situation that we get to repeat those lessons and keep trying until we get it. And sometimes maybe we don't get it, and we have to learn in other methods, in other realms, so to speak.
Right. I truly believe that, our lives are not meaningless. We're meant to do something, and whether it is to affect others around us or the world, or it's to affect us personally, your soul personally, there's a reason for why we're existing, and a continued reason why we continue to relive either our existing identity. Maybe that's the word that I wanted to get out before. So if it was, if I passed away tomorrow, is it rare that people would come back, like for myself, to come back as me again, and relive my life again, or is it more common, I guess, for like someone for me to be, say, like you were just mentioning to Connie, that she may have been this elderly man climbing up the mountain, or is that more common, to be a different identity?
You're basically asking, do we get a replay? And in other words, come back to this lifetime and relive this life experience in a different manner, or maybe in the same manner.
Right.
It's possible, and I'm not going to say it's impossible to happen. I think it's quite very possible because, again, we've got to look at the quantum physics of things. Time truly does not exist. So does that mean that you could have the opportunity to come back and live as, and you said your name is Denny, correct?
Anthony.
Anthony, okay. I heard the any into it. But Anthony, you may come back again and relive 2014, or in this time frame of 2014 again. You know, I believe it's possible. So, yeah, it's really very interesting.
So if we have a mission that if we have like a mission within our own selves, and if we don't complete that mission, so it's possible to come back to complete it, correct?
Exactly. I think it is. And here's another thing to consider, you know, like an example, and I did this study when I was in college where we kind of got on this debate of, you know, let's pick a favorite character. Hitler was quite the character, was he not? I mean, he just was so self, and he was just a horrible person, and he caused great grief and strife upon the world. But if we were to look at Hitler the man, we could have some very ugly things to say about him, and we could have some very kind things to say about him. But if we look at Hitler the soul, then we will come to understand that the character he played in that lifetime was simply a role that he was playing for the mission he agreed to accomplish. And that was to educate the mass consciousness about the wrongs of judgmental activity. Okay? So as a soul, he's a very enlightened being. As the man, you know, he was, you know, the person we loved to hate. But he had purpose. He was merely playing a role in which to bring about a lesson to the world.
Well, I think it's funny because Connie just mentioned in the chat room here tonight that years ago she said that a psychic told her that one of her spirit guides was an older Asian man.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm just now looking at that.
So that's pretty amazing.
Isn't that
pretty amazing that maybe that our spirit guides are our previous lives? Could that be?
Absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. If we can think connecting with our higher selves, okay, and we also consider that we travel in what I call soul circles, which is where the term soul mate came in. These are individuals or consciousness of self that are traveling lifetime after lifetime but changing roles.
Okay. That's why you ready to take another one?
Deep. This can get so
very excited.
Yeah.
I know you can get so deep into it that you're creating a maze that you can't get back out of.
Exactly. It gets really, like, I sat in my classes and went, huh? What?
Okay. Well, let's move on and let's go to area code 904. Hi, you're on the air with Belle, Anthony, and Lucy. Who am I speaking with?
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, this is Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great.
Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Okay. Well,
this is such oh goodness, what a life experience that's coming through for you. I'm just kind of going to throw something out at you to see if this resonates with you. Are you what one would consider a very patriotic individual?
I don't go overboard.
All right, here's kind of what's coming through for me. Excuse me. I feel as though I want to put you in the United States, and I also feel as though I would put you in the era of, I'm going to say, feels like perhaps the Revolutionary War. And I do feel as though you are a female in this lifetime, and that not that you were really in support of any one side or the other of the war, because I feel like there's an indifference there with this energy. But what I see is that there's you, and I see about 4 other women who are sitting on what seems to be a porch, and there's like soldiers' uniforms are draped in your laps, and you're repairing these uniforms with needle and thread. You're fixing these uniforms. And the first thing that I thought of when I saw this image was like Betsy Ross, how she made the American flag, but it wasn't the American flag, it was the uniforms of the soldiers, and that you were making repairs to these uniforms so that they could be recirculated or given back to, the original wearer of these uniforms. But the whole concept of this scenario was the mending of these uniforms, whether it was to sew tears or whether it was to, I do feel like they were being laundered, of course, but that they were being mended, and that you were one of the women who took part in this activity for the sake of the soldiers, even though I feel as though your energy in particular was a bit indifferent to whether they were right or wrong. It was just there was a need, and you serviced that need. And so it kind of strikes me as interesting in your own energy, the fact that there was the needle and thread and we were mending the uniforms. It really kind of draws me to the concept that we know that within our government, and I don't know if you're from the United States or Canada or where, but there are tears within our government, and that there are those of you who are here to help mend those tears. So whether it means that, and especially in that lifetime, there was an energy of indifference with you, in that, you didn't say yay or nay about whether they were right or wrong. You just had a need, and it paid the bills. It gave you some money for what you were doing. A tuppence, mind you, but it paid you, some money. And I feel as though that this lifetime, there's a sense of a continuation to where you need to exercise your voice in helping to mend the tears or the rips within the country, within what this country stands for. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I think so. It's very interesting what you've observed. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, and so it sort of feels like, I don't know if you particularly are vocal about, changes that need to be made within our country or within our government, or, if you're adamant about GMOs or, big businesses, but there's something that, to me, that lifetime you didn't express a voice, and I don't feel like at that time you felt you had the right to do so. But in this lifetime, and I feel like this has been a continuing thing for you, that in this lifetime, it is about helping to mend the tears or mend the rips that are existing within our country at this time. So wow. If you don't have a blog, maybe that's something you need to consider or think about doing.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's really, it seems really right on track.
Yeah, and I feel like you have a big following. I don't know what you do, Dennis, but I feel like there's a following. There are people who really look up to you, and if you aren't aware of them yet, you will soon be, because I feel like these folks are those who really are looking up to you and looking for direction or guidance from you based on what you observe. And I feel like I keep hearing you say, hey, you know what, I'm nobody, but I'm just someone, I'm a man who sees things that need to be fixed. And so Spirit's calling you a tinkerer, and so it's got to start somewhere, and it may as well start with you.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Well, yeah, I really do think if I'd been back in the revolution, I really do think I would have not cared which side. I would have been indifferent. I would have been neutral, I think. I really do think I'd have been neutral. But
yeah, it was. It felt, it was just a job for you, and it just so happened to be one where you were mending uniforms, the tears and whatnot, and it didn't matter to you who was right or who was wrong, or what side it was, because I felt like the uniforms being repaired were from both sides. You know what I mean? It was just, that was a job that you had that you did. And but you gave great care in the repair. And it's just interesting how that similar energy is coming through right now in this lifetime for you. So do you tend to be an advocate for changes within our country? Are you from the U.S.?
Yes, I'm from the U.S. But,
okay.
I'm definitely not neutral this time around. No, I do try primarily online. I try to primarily post arguments online, but,
And that's a good thing, because you're making people think, and you're making people communicate, and that's where, because, Spirit told me probably 8-9 years ago that the people of the world, and not just the U.S., but the people of the world are going to be uniting in their voice. And when they do, that is when changes will begin to take place for the betterment of the whole. And so it's now a time where people are starting to realize, hey, you know what, I do have a voice, and my voice matters. And it takes leaders such as yourself who initiates those triggers, if you will, to get people to start thinking, and because we've become so conditioned to be told what to do, and now we're realizing that we no longer want to be told, we want to choose. And that, I just feel like I have to put you behind that, or be responsible for that, for a collective of changes that you're about to bring, to help bring about, from just the very actions that you're taking. So you are indeed a voice, and you're teaching people and showing people that they too have a voice, and through those voices, that's where change is going to take place.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it. That's very interesting. Thank you.
It is.
Excellent.
It is.
Dennis, thank you so much for calling in.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me hear that. That was very good. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, Belle, while I'm listening to this, okay, I do have a question. I have always said, I've always felt that everything happens for a reason. So the need, or maybe when someone feels like, okay, I want to get a past life reading, could that be a message from Spirit or from the universe as to maybe a trigger to start a different avenue, or maybe it's a sign that maybe it's time for a different door to open?
Or a greater understanding.
Okay.
Because and when these messages come in, or these feelings come in, it's really all a part of listening to the higher self, because the higher self is what's connected to the all that is. And so when we start to realize that it's time to make change, or it's time to step up, we're going to start getting that feeling or that prompting that there's time. It's time for something to shift. It's time for something to change. And oftentimes, getting a past life reading will help you to understand a part of that change. And when I do my readings, they actually last about an hour and a half, because there's a lot of detail, a lot much more detail that comes out, and we also turn a lot of focus on how you're going to apply that in this lifetime. So it is a prompting from the higher self that it's time to activate, it's time to start making some change.
Excellent. And of course, everyone realizes that this is just a taste of what the past life reading is, and we're so grateful that you're doing this. So can we take another caller now, because we've got some people waiting to talk to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go to area code 504. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony, Lucy, and Belle. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call. I know I need to talk a little more, huh, for you to get my energy.
Excuse me. I have dealt with this cough for a couple of months now, and but it just seems to be persistent. But I'm here.
Okay.
Debbie, the first thing that came through for me, and I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I'm sorry, but it fits you. You were you were a madam of a brothel.
Wow. I'm laughing.
And so here I get this Dolly Parton image, because you were a rather buxom woman, and the hair was always done up and very you were a commanding presence, and they were your girls, and you were very protective of your girls, and you had very strict rules. But what's interesting is that even though I want to call it a brothel, I don't feel like there was a lot of hanky-panky going on. You know what I mean? It just felt like, I don't know. It didn't feel like, they're not showing me, let's put it that way, that there was a lot of, sexual activity happening, but they were just pleasuring. They were companions. You just had this very strict rule about your girls, and that you were definitely a reputable establishment. Let's put it that way. But it was more about pleasing and pleasuring these men than it was about satisfying them.
Huh.
And so, I'm asking Spirit, how is this relating to where you are now? And I'm really trying very hard not to take it on a sexual level, but you are indeed a very commanding presence in this lifetime as you were in that lifetime. And you certainly have you have your standards, and heaven help anybody that crosses them. And you don't mind telling them that they have. You understand what I mean?
Kind of.
You do. You do. But I feel as though you tend to be a very protective person around all individuals that are in your life, whether they be male or female. You're very protective. I also feel that it's something about morals. It's something that's very strict about morals. And we don't have to take morals to a sexual level. Do you understand? But just simply, it just feels to me like this lifetime is more about the living the right life, living the true path, and those people that. And are you a teacher? Or are you working within this field, Debbie?
You mean metaphysical teacher?
Mm-hmm.
No, but I am practicing spiritual, Reiki and things like that, and I probably am called a prude more than...
Exactly. Exactly, because this is where the morals come in, and this is where, and I feel like that your very example is teaching people about these morals. So shall we call it a prude or what have you? And this is why I felt in that lifetime this wasn't about hanky-panky. It was more about companionship than it was about the how do I explain it? Like the cat houses. You didn't have one of those. Your women were reputable. And that's exactly how it feels in this lifetime within your own morals. And you expect people around you to live to those morals. Do you know what I mean? And so it's about teaching and leading by example. And you are about a spiritual level and teaching that spiritual connection.
Okay.
So I'm going to use the word teacher to you because I think that's what you're here to do.
Okay. Could it be like a geisha girl type place instead of, do you know what I mean? I know that I had a past life that was, Asian.
Mm-hmm. In this image, I don't see you as Asian. I see you as a blonde, very buxom lady, and very, very beautiful hair, very intricately dressed, and it feels like this is a high-class place. It feels as though, there's chandeliers, there's, the red velvet. There's just a very high-class place. But you were the madam. You were the one in charge. So even if there was another lifetime where you led as an Asian, geisha girl, there's another repeat of a life experience.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Debbie, for calling.
Sure.
Yeah, keep that mentality in mind, because I feel as though there's a lot about you that you've gained in these lifetimes that you're teaching and passing on to others, whether you're doing it in a formal fashion or whether you're just doing it by example. People are watching.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome, dear.
Bye.
Thank you, Debbie. Good night.
Thanks.
Belle, what was the most
amazing?
What was the most astounding past life reading that you've done? Maybe somebody that you've done a reading for, past life reading for, maybe had a well-known historical past life. Has there ever been a reading like that for you?
Very close. I did a past life reading for a lady one time that comes to mind that at first, going into this life experience, I had the strong sensation that she was Cleopatra, but yet we weren't being given that name or that identity. But it was in an Egyptian setting, and I felt as though she was on a boat, and there was something about, I'm trying to remember all the details of it now, but there was something about that she had an affinity with snakes, and that there were two snakes placed on either side of her, and that she was to, I don't want to say charm these snakes, but it was almost like they were wanting these snakes to bite her in order for her to be lifted into a more revered position, and that's the one that kind of pops into my mind. But again, it felt very Cleopatra, but she wasn't identified as Cleopatra, but it was in that era, to where these snakes seemed very prominent to her. They were very predominant to her presence in that lifetime, and that the venom from the snakes was supposed to be what lifted her to a more revered position amongst these people.
And you actually, do you actually receive the actual vision, or is it the spirits just describing the scene to you?
No, I actually see it. I can actually see the scenario, and oftentimes at the same time, Spirit is feeding me information, say a background about this particular lifetime, but I can see the imagery around a particular scene that they're showing me, and then the information comes in through Spirit that might fill in the blanks or give us a little bit of history or background around what that individual is, experiencing in that lifetime.
So, I mean...
It's the knowing at work.
Yeah, I mean, it just... Go ahead, Lucy, I'm sorry.
It's the knowing at work.
Yeah, and like Robin says in the chat room, it's like remote viewing. It's very much remote viewing, because I'm taking myself back to that time frame, and I'm sort of like a fly on the wall. And I'm observing what's taken place, and then Spirit sort of fills in some of the information that pertains to that particular lifetime.
I'm an artist at heart. I've taken it in college. It's been my passion. I love drawing and painting. I don't get time to do it so often now, but I would be truly fascinated if you were to even team up with an artist and actually draw that vision of what, say, I look like or somebody looked like in their previous life. I mean, I would stare at that picture for days.
I tell you, I have said this many, many times, how I wish that I could be an artist so that I could draw the things that I see. It would just be amazing. But as you were speaking, Anthony, immediately the name David came to me in a particular life experience that you had where you were, in fact, an artist, and that you were painting like large murals and almost as if I would put you in the likes of Da Vinci, but for some reason the name was David, and that you were quite the artist, and that you were doing these murals on walls or on ceilings, much in the very same concept as these fellows were doing.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's wonderful. This is so fascinating. Do you get anything else on Anthony?
Uh-oh.
I also get the sense with you, Anthony, that that you could be quite good with the spear. You know, in that I could see you having had lived.
Now, why are you laughing, Lucy? Go ahead,
in a
Belle.
jungle environment. And what's so very significant about the spear is that it also can represent the tongue, which means that you can be very quick with your words and hit your point right off the mark without even thinking before saying it. You just react.
Yes, that's me. Okay, we won't go on me anymore now.
Oh, you know what, Belle? This is fascinating. So let's get to another caller, okay?
Sure.
Okay, let's go to area code 903. They've been on hold for quite a long time. Hi, you're on the air with Belle, Anthony, and Lucy. Hi, who is this?
This is Claretta. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. No, it's very interesting what she's saying.
It is. I mean, it's
it really is. Yes, it's very interesting what she's talking about and saying. I love doing it. Such a fun part of my job to be able to peer into our life experiences and see how they affect us in this lifetime. Now, Coletta, the first thing that came through to me is I definitely want to take you back to the Wild West. And you were female in that lifetime and quite adept on a horse and quite good with a rope. I also felt as though, and I really get this energy of Calamity Jane around you because I felt like you were always you needed to prove yourself to your friends, to your fellow cowboys. You know what I mean? You were always about needing to show people that, that you were quite capable of, let's say, running the ranch. Even though I feel like this was more for performance than it was for, a business, like running a ranch or herding cattle or what have you. So this felt more like show or more like performance for you, but you were very, very competitive in that lifetime. And that tends to also feed into where you are right now, that you do tend to feel like you're in a position where you always have to prove yourself. And not that I would call you competitive so much now, but that whatever it is that you seek to do, you're always one of the best. Does that make sense? Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
It really does, yes. I understand that. I'm just surprised, though, about the cowboy, that part.
Why would that surprise you?
Well, I don't know. It seems like in the past, I haven't picked that up. But before, I picked up other lifetimes.
Uh-huh.
Like a soldier that is dying.
Ooh, wow.
Like in World War II, in the jungle, and I see myself as a man and in combat clothes, and a Japanese gentleman right across from me, and like he attacked him, and I attacked. We attacked each other, and we're both looking at each other, dying. We're
Isn't
dying.
That amazing?
It's like a rainforest.
And we know that
it
we've
just kind of slowly fades out.
Before. And so it's important to realize that when an experience comes forward, and it could be that you've moved past that particular life experience, and now we're moving into evolving with more lessons that you're here to accomplish. And therefore, it's about, in your case, the performance. It was always about proving yourself and being the best at what you do. That tends to be the focus of where you are right now in your particular lifetime. When those wartime memories came through for you, that was kind of where you were at that time in valuing a human life or valuing the life of an individual, even Do you know what I mean?
Yes. How can I get through? What do I need to not stall on this lifetime?
Say that again, sweetheart.
Okay. How can I not stall in this lifetime where I can move it on? So if I have to come back again in another lifetime, I can move on.
Here's what I would do. Is that, we're always in communication with our spirit guides, and we're also always in communication with our own higher self. And so this would be a question that I would pose to the higher self, because our higher self knows us better than anybody. You know yourself better than anyone. But you can also beseech the help of your higher self by simply stating, how can I embrace the lessons that I came here to learn in order to move forward and progress? And right away, Spirit's telling me for you is that you've already done it. You're already doing it.
Right. I'm hoping so.
Yes,
progressing.
You're already. So.
Well, Coletta, you know what? It sounds like that you would benefit from a longer session with Belle. So we'll post the information later, and I really highly suggest that you contact Belle and get a full past life regression. Okay?
Yes, I think that's a nice suggestion. I think I will do that.
All right.
Thank you very much for all your help.
Coletta, very quickly, Coletta, I just want to add, Spirit states to say to you, when we stop asking if we're on the right track, that's when we should be concerned. But when we're asking if we're on the right track, that's a good sign that you're on the right track.
Okay.
You always check yourself.
Okay. I appreciate that very much. And thank you.
You're welcome.
And
You're welcome.
I want to hear my laugh again, honey.
Thank you, darling. Okay. Good night.
She knows what I'm talking about. I love her laugh.
Good night, dear. Thank you for calling in.
Okay. Thank you, hon.
Okay.
You're welcome, sweetie. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's go. We've got a couple more people that are waiting to talk to you. Let's go to area code 408. Hi, you're on the air with Belle and Anthony and Lucy. Who is this?
This is Mateo.
Mateo!
How are you guys?
Hi! We're fine.
It's good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you. Belle, this is a dear friend of the show, so we're very interested to see what you come up with for him.
Oh, I bless.
Mateo, how are you, my dear?
I'm doing well, ma'am. How are you?
I am wonderful. First off, I have to refer to you as being a very influential, very strong spiritual leader in this lifetime. This is what you represent. You understand that?
Yeah.
Modesty is going to cause you to say, well, I don't know, but that is what's coming through. As soon as I heard your voice, the first thing that I felt was I was being taken back to, and I want to say like the 1600s, maybe early 1700s, and you were what I felt to be a king. Although I don't feel like that was the label or the title that you embraced, but it was indeed your representation. You know, it was someone who was a great leader even in that time, but I don't get the feeling of you having had a kingdom or, you know, the large castle and the riches and the wealth, but I do feel as though here is a humble man who had many followers, much like, if you pardon the expression, much like the energy of Christ. Simply by example, by who you stood for, by what you stood for and how you portrayed that is what led people to follow you and to be a part of your flock, if you will. But that energy of king came through very strongly for you. And you were an individual who was never, ever about the fight or the battle. If you had anything to do with it, you would avoid a battle altogether. It was more about an existence of peace and harmony and unity. And that's what came through in that lifetime, and that's what comes through as well in this lifetime.
That's fascinating. That's great. Thank you. It's all makes me blush.
Oh, and see, that's that. You've got such a humble presence about you that it's so totally incredible, and just your very presence, the energy, what people are drawn to about you, and it's that they would listen. You could be the one giving the Sermon on the Mount, and everybody is going to sit at your feet and listen, because you are, and I know this sounds so cliche, and I am so sorry for using it, but you are that enlightened being who chose to be here at this time for this reason, for this purpose, to bring about an energy of peace for all those who will just sit and listen to you. Now, Mateo, do you write at all?
I don't write. I do a lot of art stuff. I do a lot of music.
Okay, so that's that communication or that creativity that's coming forth. And it could be very representative of the fact that with you being one who does music, is that when we do music, well, we certainly want to have fans. We want people who will listen. And that's the same energy that I feel coming through for you in this lifetime. People are going to listen and hear your music.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
That's wonderful. That is Mateo.
My dad.
Now, do you have CDs? Do you produce your music? Do you put it out there?
I've actually, since I've had children, I've put that pretty much for now. I suffered an injury and had kids. My kids were way cooler than the people I was playing music with. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this, sweetheart. I feel as though what you're going to be doing is kind of solo. It's going to be you. It's not you in a group. I feel as though it is just you. Excuse me. And even your taste in music has shifted somewhat. But I do. I'm sorry?
That's fantastic. That's so true. I told myself yesterday that I'm shocked at what I'm listening to now.
Yeah.
I actually spent last night having dinner with the last band I was in for about 10 years, and just listening to what they're doing now, it's not even my taste anymore. I'm like, wow, you guys are all angry and stuff.
Doesn't even resonate with you anymore. And so I feel as though you're going to be embarking on your own, and I do feel as though there's going to be music, like CDs and such, being made available, whether they are self-produced or whether it's something that someone chooses to assist you with. It's just you. You know, this is about you. It's not about you and others. This is your message. And I also feel as though when I asked you if you wrote, is that a lot of this music is going to come from you, out of you.
Okay.
So it's time to get busy, my friend.
I guess so. Well, thank you very, very much.
How wonderful.
Mateo, thank you so much for calling in.
No problem, Miss Lucy. It's good to talk to you, and nice to talk to you, Mr. Quiet Pants, over there.
I'm just listening.
I know. You guys take care and have a good night.
You too,
Thank you, dear. Good night.
Bill, do you find that many people that you read for, or even just hearing about it amongst other fellow colleagues and you know, their clients, do you feel that people who do come to you for reading or come for readings, either it be past life or anything else, do you feel that many are accepting of the words that you convey to them, or are they more combative and fight the truth, I guess would be the word, fighting the truth, or do you feel that they're more receivable of it?
On the whole, the majority of the people that I do readings for get it. You know, they understand, you know, the message that's coming through. It resonates with them. Occasionally, you're going to get people who are combative and they don't want to hear what you've got to say, particularly when you tell them that, no, the guy that you're liking isn't going to like you back. It's not going to work out. And they're convinced that he's a soulmate, and so they're not going to hear it from me. They're going to keep calling someone until somebody tells them what they want to hear.
Right.
I'm not about blowing smoke. If I'm not seeing it, I'm not going to tell you I see it. I'm not going to make it up. Just like when I had an opportunity to do a TV show, and they wanted me to do readings for some celebrities on this show, and so when they contacted me, they were telling me, now, we'll provide you a script and yada, yada, and that's when I said, oh, hold up. I don't do scripts. Trust what I get enough that I'm not going to need you to feed me anything. I'm going to go with exactly what I get. And they said, oh, no, but what if you don't get something on, say, Jim Carrey? And as much as I would have loved to do that show, I was like, then I would say to him, sorry, bud, I'm not getting anything. So they went with somebody else, and that was fine because it just wasn't where I wanted to be. I'm not going to be scripted in any form or fashion. I trust what I get as being the truth to the way it's being shown to me, and that's how it is. But so if a person is combative, they may not understand what I'm saying right away, but often when they think about it or they give it a little bit of time, they'll come back and say, oh, my God, you were right.
Mm.
Just like I had a lady came to me one time, Anthony, that when I was reading her, I could see that she was going to be getting married that year. And she just kind of looked at me like, really? And I said, absolutely. I said, I feel like it's a spur of the moment, like, boom, let's get married. Let's do it this weekend. It's going to be a quickie. Let's get this done. And she goes, honey, she said, I like you. I really do. She said, but I have been with my man for 7 years, and there is no way that he is going to ask me to marry him. He's told me many, many times he does not want to get married. And I said, okay, well, let's see what September brings. And, of course, I didn't hear from her again until I happened to run into her one day. And she sported this great big diamond ring on her finger, and she flaunted it in my face and said, oh, look, just like you said. He came up to me in September and said, well, you want to do it or not? And we went to Vegas and did it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Belle, I've been so excited about this all week. May I please ask you to see what you come up for me?
Absolutely. Let me just kind of turn my focus back on again and see what comes through with Lucy here. Here's kind of, there's like a multiple of things that are popping in, boom, 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 boom. But kind of the first thing that I want to talk about was, and I'm going to put it in an energy of having been a servant, and I feel as though it was to royals, that you worked with the royals, and I feel as though you didn't have the dirty job, so to speak, but you were more of an attendant. You took care of some of the family, or we'll call it children or what have you. And it just feels to me like, you were very young upon this position. Like when you first began, you were extremely young as a child, so to speak, and you began with doing, minor duties, minor jobs, and then eventually you were promoted, if you will, to, taking care of the family or the children, and you had a more prominent position amongst the family. But here's what's interesting about this life experience is that you fell in love with one of the sons. That son, in turn, also fell in love with you. And I felt like there was this energy of secrecy and this energy, I've got another client calling, this energy of secrecy and this energy of, not a shameful energy, but that we had to keep it quiet because we aren't allowed to share this. We can't, let this be known how much we love each other. And I'm following this life experience, and they're actually telling me that in truth, he opted to leave his position in order to follow his heart. And so you both did, if you will, ran away together and chose to live your life in love and happiness, but in poverty as well, because he was, in fact, disowned, because he chose to love beneath himself. So
oh, God, that's so romantic.
just give up. Let's see, love, wealth. Well, for him, it was about love. And the beautiful thing about you is Spirit is telling me that you would have never asked him to choose that.
Mhm.
You would have never, it's me or the money. You know what I mean? Excuse me. You would have never asked that, but it was his choice and his decision, which Spirit's telling me was right thinking, but it wasn't about the money for him, nor was it ever about the money for you or the title or anything of that nature. It was about just living a life of love and peace and happiness together. And I think that also resonates with the kind of person that you are in this lifetime, is that for you, you marry for love. You choose for love. Also not the wealth and the riches for you. You are happy to simply embrace a simple life. As long as you live a rightful life, as long as your bills are paid, you're happy. It's not about the wealth and riches. You don't attain to become wealthy. So something, that has followed you and is very much about the character that you are as a whole, but it certainly, resonates in this lifetime with you as well.
Oh, that's
you
beautiful.
Are the romance. Right?
Yeah, I truly believe in love. Oh, my God. It is and it is so true. It's like if it's a choice between love or money, it is going to be the love. And what's interesting, what you said about the royals, I am so totally fascinated by Tudor history. Henry VIII, all that period of time, Elizabeth, all of that history. I've read everything that I can read about it. There's just some connection there that is so fascinating to me. So this was so right on the money. Thank you.
You are so very welcome.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
Well, Belle, I have a question.
It would make sense why you were drawn to that particular era anyway, because you lived it.
Well, that's the question that I was going to ask you. Do you find that the things that we sort of unconsciously are attracted to or subconsciously attracted to in this lifetime are the repeating aspects of things from our past lives?
I do agree with that, Anthony. And in part of my psychic development courses, when I teach this course, I teach about the little man in the subconscious mind. And many of us probably didn't know that there is that little man or woman, depending how you choose, in your subconscious mind. And their only job, is to record everything you've ever experienced in their little computer. And so whether it is this lifetime or whether it has to do with other lifetimes, it's been recorded in your subconscious mind by that little man. So when you find that you have a uncanny attraction to Scotland or to the Alps or to, competition and war and fighting and, what's the word I was going to say? Sometimes I get in that place where the human words don't fit anymore. But when we find that we're attracted to that type of scenario, it's likely because we've been there before. We've lived that experience before.
And again, this may be a silly question, but does déjà vu play into this aspect then?
Does it? It just means been there, done that. It basically translates as the same as you, or it's a repetitive experience. So did you dream about it? Did you astral travel there? Or did you actually live it?
Right. That's the biggest question.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And Spirit's telling me it's all of those. It's everything and all of it. It's an experience that you've had that resonates true with you, that you've lived it before, been there before, experienced it before.
So is that
if you can remember, we're doing things as a collective. We are no longer separate. We are a collective. So what memories I might have, you may resonate with.
Right,
and
right, okay.
So, Belle,
Okay.
does this transfer over to people? Can you have known someone in a previous life?
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever met someone that you just, as soon as you met them, you couldn't stand them? And they've done nothing to you. There's just something about them that's
daily.
Okay? It's because you probably had an experience with that individual in another lifetime that wasn't so pleasant. And, buddy, you never forgot it, because remember, that little man in the subconscious mind filed that away big and heavy, so that when you encountered their energy again, you immediately felt, ooh, you're not a good person. I remember you. I can't put my finger on it, but I remember you. You know, you get a caution right away. On the same token, when you meet people that you instantly connect with, again, these are probably souls that you've had an encounter with in yet another life experience that resonates with you as having been a pleasant experience.
Okay, Lucy, I have to ask this question of Belle, because when Lucy and I first met, what was it, 2009? I can't even remember the year anymore. There was, I know Lucy has said this to me over and over again, that the first time she met me, we were at a convention, and instantly there was this connection that she felt, this bond that just resonated over her. And I never revealed it to her in the very beginning, but I had told her afterwards that I felt sort of the same way, not as strong, but yes, I felt that there was something with her. And over time, over the years that I've grown to know her, and we've developed this friendship with each other and this partnership, that I feel as though we had to have known each other, that there's something within our connection that we've had to have known each other. Are you able to feel that, or to see that connection, to see if maybe Lucy and I may have lived in the past and have known each other before?
Absolutely, and the first thing that came through for you is that I would venture to bet that Lucy tends to be rather protective of you.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like some might refer to it as a mothering energy, but in actuality, I feel as though she was a big sister. She was an older big sister who was left with the responsibility of caring for you and making sure that, and I'm also going to state that there was, I'm not sure if it was because you were extremely young or if it was because there was a bit of a disability with you, but that she was always felt responsible for you. She always needed to take care of you, and she always did.
That's funny you say that, because Lucy lives in Chicago and I live in New York. And any time that anything bad happens to me, either it was with Hurricane Sandy or if I got sick or whatever it was, the first thing she would say is, I can be on the next flight out to New York. And she would want to take care of me, and that's just her. That's her personality. That's her aura. That's how she is, and she's always been that way. She's always been that mother figure to me.
Yeah,
I worry about him. I worry about him a lot.
Especially in terms of, did you eat? What did you eat? Did you eat your vegetables?
She says that every time I talk to her. Did you eat today? What did you eat today?
Must be psychic. I don't know.
Oh my God. No, that is us. I mean, I do worry about him because he's like always, I just want to make sure that he's like taking care of himself. It's almost like if I have to go there and I literally have to spoon feed him, I will.
Yeah. Oh, you would. Most definitely. You would.
Well, you know what, Belle? This has been such an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. This has been a totally amazing experience. And unfortunately, we do want to apologize to the callers that are still in the queue. There's so many of you. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you, the magazine, and to schedule a more in-depth reading with you?
You can certainly visit my website at bellesalisbury.com and just think of the steak, the Salisbury steak, Salisbury, Belle, Belle, Salisbury.com. And our magazine is found at Bellesprit.com, which is BELLESPRIT.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Belle, thank you again so much. Everybody out there, please go check out Belle Salisbury, check out Bellesprit Magazine and the talented team at Bellesprit.com, which I'm very proud to say that I am a member of. And thank you again, darling. I really, really, really appreciate this. We both do.
Yes, we do.
This has been an honor, and thank you. And I just want to add, Lucy, you are one of our Bellesprit Diamond Psychics and Healers, which means Lucy was tested by our team before she was allowed to be a part of the Diamonds of Bellesprit. So be sure and check out Lucy as well for your next reading.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Belle, so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you, guys.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, and thank you to everyone for listening in.
Great. Thank you.
Good night.
All right, good night.
Good night.
This was so awesome.
There you go, giggling, laughing again. I should have asked her, if you were some perpetuating 5-year-old in a previous life that just never grew older.
I'm making up for all the time I was taking care of everybody else.
There you go. That was amazing. She nailed you right on the head, completely.
Well, like I says, it's really interesting that she said the Royals because you know me, I'm so fascinated by that period of time. In addition to all the research that we do, every chance I get, I'm going to pick up something or watch something that has to do with that time period. Now, with you, it's Egypt. I know you're fascinated with Egypt. So I know for a fact that you have some tie to that time area. So this, to me, was just really interesting. And I think, of course, she only touched the surface for us and for, our callers. But it really is a great example, of what you can get from a past life reading. Again, in order to address your future, to address your past, sometimes it really does help to know where you've been. It gives you that understanding as to why you may do things or why you may address things in a certain manner. So I honestly think this was wonderful. This was really great.
Well, we talked about, and Belle had talked about this before, about how, things pop up and there's a reason for it, and I guess the energy that's come forward to seek out the answers and to get the knowing or to get the understanding better. When we had first started to plan and coordinate for the month of January to dedicate it to psychic advisors and healers, that we had some names in the bank already that we were working on, and Belle was one of them. And when you got that confirmation from her, we said, okay, great, what can we, bring to the show that may be different, that may be highlighted a little bit differently? And you informed me that she had done past life readings, which I've never seen before. I don't think I've ever had the privilege of ever being in front of, ever experienced myself, or even actually ever seen this done, on television or anything like that. It's always just been regular readings. I've never had it with that title, past life, readings, regression. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you said that, a light bulb just went off in me, and I said, we have to have her do it. We have to have her do that. I don't know if it was just the excitement of it because I've never heard it done before, or maybe it was a calling internally in me saying, you need to know your past life. You need to find out what it was, what you were before, to get you into the mix. And I've always been saying for the past few years that I really want to get back into doing art. I really miss drawing and painting and all that stuff. And, I've got friends and family who tell me all the time that you need to, I want a painting from you. I need to have a painting from you or something. And I always put it off because, either busy at work or things that I've got to do and just crazy lifestyle. But I've always been saying I want to get back into it. And she had sort of said that, in my past life I was this artist. And I guess hearing that, hearing it, even though she's not saying that I should be or whatever, start to do it again now, but I guess just hearing that I was this artist in a previous life, that maybe that's the kick I need to let out the creativity in me, because I always feel that I'm stifled because of work and everything else. And this show does it. This show does it for me as far as being creative, but it's 1 hour or 2 hours a week, and that's it. And so I wanted to expand on it more. So maybe hearing that from her maybe is going to give me that spark to start to be a little bit more creative in the future.
Well, that goes back to my question that I asked her. I mean, you know, is it that, you know, for some reason the universe says, okay, you know, you start thinking something that you've never thought about before. I want to get a past life reading. Is that message from the universe saying, okay, maybe there's something that you need to address? So it puts the idea of getting a past life reading in your mind, and then that's that little click that opens that door. It pushes it open a little bit and gives you the opportunity to completely open the door and to see that path where it's like, okay, you know, maybe it's time. It's time for this to happen. I mean, everything happens for a reason. So there is a reason why maybe we did this show. Maybe there's a reason why the thought of past life readings came to be. But it's all part of that big, giant mystery that life is. I mean, it's amazing.
We've had that happen to us many, many times where, and you can back me up on this, Lucy, that whenever we plan out, Lucy and I plan out our shows, if not 2 months, at least a month. We've never, you know, depending on whether or not we've had cancellations of guests or changes in our own personal lives that we've had to adjust the show, usually our shows are booked out and scheduled within at least 2 months, at least 6 weeks to 2 months. And there's never been really any higher thought into why we put on the shows that we do. Some of them are obviously of the interest of ours or interest of our listeners, and so we'll go forward and try and get that guest or try and find that topic to talk about and schedule it and book it. But it doesn't happen until either it's a week out or maybe even 2 days or even the day of, that things that are happening within Lucy and I and our lives separately, or sometimes together. It doesn't, there's no distinguishability in it. But some things that happen within our own lives clicks with the show that we've actually scheduled for that day. And either it was we've had something that happened, and then somehow, in some way, it's revealed within the line of the show and within the script of this show, not the script, but within the the discussion points and the discussions between the guests and us, and either it's a word or a phrase or something like that, and it could be a reflection of what we were just talking about 2 days ago, or what we were just thinking about, or I may have thought it but never said it to Lucy, and then after the show I'd reveal to her and say, you know what, I was thinking of that just the other day, and how weird is it that she brought it up or he brought it up. And so we're finding that out a lot lately. Well, not lately, Lucy, right? We've had this for quite a while now. It's been happening to us.
Yes. And again, it goes back to what I said. Everything happens for a reason. There's a reason that our paths cross. There is a reason why we do this show. There is a reason why we talk about the topics that we do. And it's, like you said, it's not always obvious at the time, but for some reason the synchronicities are just there, and it's too wonderful to ignore. It really is, because it all falls into place. So for someone out there who, has never thought about getting a past life reading, I honestly think that it might be something that you really want to try. I mean, it's different than just going to get a psychic reading. It's different than just, going in with questions. I mean, here is Spirit, or, however you want to identify it. Here is Spirit giving you background, your own background. It's helping you see what your story is so far, so that you can finish writing the story that you are living now.
Yeah, and right before the new year, I said to you that we've got to make a change in 2014 personally. There are things that we need to break through to be a better human, to be a better spirit or soul. And one of the things that first clicked, and I've said this before in the show, just a couple of, what was it, last show maybe it was, or the show before that we did the burning bowl ceremony. And it was something that clicked in me that said, even as silly as I may have initially thought of this burning bowl ceremony, I did it anyway, and something was compelling me to do it, to make a change, to get rid of the past, all the negativity, and make a difference for 2014. And when we initially talked about it, I mentioned it to you. You had done it, what was it, the night of New Year's Eve?
Mm-hmm. I did it New Year's Eve.
You did it on New Year's Eve. I did it as well on New Year's Eve. We both did it. You felt an impact the next morning. I felt an impact that same evening. It was probably maybe an hour, or not even an hour after I did that burning bowl ceremony. And, subsequently after that, a few days after that, and even till, as I'm sitting here talking to you all right now, I felt a change, a difference, and I'm starting to make these changes. And Lucy, I haven't even mentioned this to you, but I've started to make changes even in my own closeness, my own apartment, my own house right here. I've started to make changes and started to refresh things and add in more good. I bought things that have sayings on them that sort of remind me every day of living life good and all this other stuff. So what I'm feeling now is, and with the end of the show tonight, is that everything that whoever is telling me this, either it's the universe or spirits, my spirit guide, you subconsciously, Lucy, who knows, whatever it is, that the messages are coming in clear, and I'm actually hearing them now for some reason. It may have been told to me before, but I'm hearing them now. And all of these expressions and these words and these phrases and these terms are allowing me now to make the change. And so hopefully I think 2014 will be better for me. But this is the reason why we're doing these shows in January, to hopefully give you guys out there who are listening to the show to be able to make that change yourselves as well. Again, it may not click for you this time. Maybe the next time we do this next January, if we continue doing this type of series, or if we do this maybe periodically throughout the year, maybe at that time that'll change for you as well, or click with you and help you to make that change. But this is the reason why we're doing it. We're feeling it, and we want to share that feeling with everybody that's listening, everybody who loves the show and tunes in every Friday, that you can make that change as well. And hopefully the show tonight with Belle will give you more of an interest in finding out what your past life was, as Lucy was talking about, and making that healing change and being able to change your course in life, and hopefully make better decisions for yourself so that you can live the rest of your life the way that you actually want to live it, and not feel trapped in the circumstances that you have right now.
Well, it goes back to the collective. I mean, I honestly believe that a lot of the things that we think about and that we want to talk about are things that everybody wants to talk about. It's that thread. It's that thread of connection between everybody. We are all one. And no matter how it may sound like a line from a movie or something like that, but I truly believe in my heart that we're all one. And I truly believe that the things that maybe you're thinking or someone else is thinking, someone else somewhere is having that same thought. And there's a reason for that, because we are connected. So this feeling of wanting to make the change and to make the improvements, I think a lot of us are feeling that. And I'm really glad that we've done this, because I'm hoping, I know for us, it's been wonderful. And I told you that. I mean, the minute I did the burning bowl, I mean, it's like Spirit's telling me that this is going to be a wonderful year. And I really think there's a lot of us out there that feel that. And if it's just the motions of going through a burning bowl ceremony, or if it's just getting a past life reading, or it's just, I don't know, just investigating something that you've always thought about but you never really took the time to look at, just those little actions will add up to something good. And that's what we need to look for. We need to look for the good in things.
I'm starting to it actually helps you to reflect back on, previous experiences within your current life right now and reflect on them. And, whereas you may have thought one thing about it and now it's sort of becoming a little bit clearer. And I can give you an example, because actually tonight, doing this show, it sort of helped me to realize and I'm not going to reveal it here tonight, so don't think you're going to get me to reveal it. But the project that I had been working on since the beginning of this year, I'm inches away from completing it. But for some reason, I put it on the back burner. And, it's always been in my mind. I never forgot about it. I continually will do things to complete it, but I've never actually completed it. I have not completed it yet. And what I'm thinking now is maybe the reason why I didn't complete it in 2013 was because it was meant for me to complete it in 2014. Maybe the awareness that I was waiting for to be able to finally, close the cap on it or put the period at the end of the sentence on it, whatever it is, that it wasn't able to be accomplished within 2013 because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to complete it for myself, for me personally. And so maybe it was 2014 that it was meant for me to complete it, because that's when I'm going to be aware of it a lot more, and that's when I'm going to be able to communicate it or express it a lot better, whatever this project is, which I'm not going to explain. But maybe it's meant for me in 2014. And so now that clarity has come to me, and so now I feel the urge now more than ever before to complete this project for this year.
Well, I wasn't going to ask you about it, but I also know, here we go, the knowing. I also know that completion will come when the time is right.
Right. I mean, I've always believed it, but what I was feeling before was that, in like September, October of this year, I'm like, maybe I should just give up. It's not. I'm not feeling it as much as I did in the very beginning, and maybe it's just meant for me not to finish this thing, and maybe that was one of the reasons why I put it on the back burner, because I was in that lull of it. I wasn't in the hype as I was in the very beginning. But I'm thinking now maybe the reason why was something or someone was telling me, don't do anything yet. Do not finish it. You cannot do this yet. You can't complete it to the way that you want it to be completed yet, because you're not awakened to what you need to know in order to finish it. And maybe it is this year, and I'm feeling it more and more now. And as I'm speaking now, I'm feeling more excited about it. And so maybe it is 2014 that this thing will get done. Okay.
Well,
that's it. I'm not going to say anything anymore.
I'm projecting. It's those thoughts I'm projecting into your head.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to get out of my head, because that's the one thing that Lucy and I have, is this weird ability to read each other's minds, and we constantly do this. You know what, you should have said that to Belle, too, and asked her about that, because you and I finish each other's sentences, or we already know what we're thinking about before it's even said, so.
And it's really strange. I mean, it's always happened. It's not something that we consciously look to do, but it just keeps happening. I know what you're thinking. You always know what I'm thinking. We finish each other's sentences. It's really weird, but it's really cool. I mean, it's cool. And the only way
it gets on my nerves sometimes, though.
But
it
see,
really
that's
does.
The whole thing. When I first met you, it's like I knew you. I mean, I'd never met you before. I'd never laid eyes on you, but I knew you. And that is like, I've never had that experience with anybody else. I knew you. And that's all. That's the only way I can explain it. And every day it just becomes.
You were my older sister.
I know. I mean, it's like I can't explain this anymore. And tonight just gave me a little bit more insight. So next time I ask you if you've eaten.
I know, and did you realize though the way that you and I communicate to each other, it is like brother and sister. I pick on you, right?
Constantly.
There's something to that.
It's just, I think it's so cool, and tonight really was. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. So I'm happy. I'm smiling. My face hurts from smiling so much.
Well, if anybody wants to learn more about Belle Salisbury or get a full past life reading or regular reading from her, learn about her magazine or read her magazine online, go to bellesalisbury.com. That's her personal website for readings. Or you can go to her magazine at Bellesprit, which is Bellesprit bellesprit.com and check out her magazine. You'll probably catch Lucy's mugshot on there, as she's a member of the team. And check it out, because anything can happen. Anything can happen. One click on your laptop or your computer or even on your phone can make a huge difference, and maybe this is the difference that can make for you.
It is an absolutely wonderful magazine. And every once in a while you will catch something from me in there. You can submit questions once a month, and, all of us that are on the team, we'll answer your questions. But it is a wonderful thing, and Belle is an amazing person, and it was just an honor to have her on here. So please make sure you check her out, okay?
All right, Big Sis, go to the Fan of the Week.
Okay, the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. This week is Lorraine Wood of Lake Ozark, Missouri. She likes Haunted Collector, Ghost Mine, The Walking Dead, ghost hunting, UFOlogy, astronomy, and, of course, she likes Paranormal Review Radio. Lorraine, thank you so much for being a fan. Thank you for posting, and congratulations.
Yeah, see, like how, can you see the word origin?
Shut up.
See, just like brother and sister fighting. Don't forget, if you want to be a Don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook at Paranormal Review Radio. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I have to say that word almost every single day, and you're the only person on the face of the earth that gives me crap about it.
It's just too funny. Say origin.
Origin.
Oh, okay. You said it okay today.
Origin.
Yeah, origin.
See, because I'm trying hard to say it correctly. Okay, well, you know what? When one moves forward in life, every experience that we have, it shapes us, it influences us, and it affects us in some way. Whether it is like 5 minutes ago or 100 years ago, it is part of who we are. By knowing where we have been, it can make the most of where we're going. We are all one, but yet we are each one a beautiful individual. Tonight was a wonderful experience, and we do want to thank Belle again for helping us to see where we have been and to help us see where we can go. So let's talk about experience and about the things that shape our lives. So far this month, we've talked about our connections with the other side and our connections with our past. They all play a part in our lives. So what else makes us who we are? Can the numbers in our lives influence what happens? Can our birth dates or the number of letters in our names tell us about us? Michael John Fierro is a numerologist, an author, and a life coach. He uses his 28 years of experience with the ancient and esoteric science of numerology to guide you on a journey of who you are by using your name and your birth date as the roadmap that is going to highlight your talents, your power, and your personality. He will be joining us next Friday night to share the hidden knowledge in the numbers in our lives. He'll be doing free readings for you, our listeners, so please do not miss this show. We want to say thank you to everyone for spending yet another Friday night with us. You have all made Friday nights the best night of the week. Thank you, Anthony, for being part of my past and making the future a wonderful adventure. So, dear travelers, keep looking forward, acknowledge the past, but keep your eyes to the future. Have a wonderful and paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal Review Radio.